Hey everyone, Emily here and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making a meal prep and I'm going to be making something that I've been wanting to try for a little while, and that's egg roll bowls. It's basically everything that's inside of an egg roll without the wrapper. So I think this sounds really good and really easy. Let's give this a try and see how it comes out. To get started, I am going to prep my vegetables. I'm going to start by finely dicing up about half of a yellow onion. I always dice these the same way, and since this is going to be a finer dice, I'm going to make several cuts into the onion toward the root, but not going into the root, and then I'll make several cuts across the top. And for a finer dice, rather than a rough chop, you just want to make these a little bit closer together. Then, once you have all of those cuts in place, you just cut right across, parallel to the root, and you have a nice, even, fine dice. Next, I'm going to peel and grate one large carrot. You could also use those little carrot matchsticks that you get from the grocery store, and that would also be just fine. And I always save the carrot top for Jax. You'll also want to mince up 1 or 2 cloves of garlic. I'm just going to be using these frozen garlic cubes, so that saves me a little bit of time. Now that I have my carrots and onion and garlic all minced up, I'm going to toss this into a pan so it can saute while I get started chopping up the cabbage, because there's quite a bit of cabbage. So into this pan, I'm just going to add in a little bit of coconut oil. You can use whatever oil you prefer. I have that going over medium-high heat, and then I'm just going to toss in my vegetables. Carrots and onion. And then I'm going to toss in a clove of minced garlic, or probably 2. I'll give this a little stir and season it up with salt and pepper. And I'll just kind of let that cook for a few minutes while I get started chopping up my cabbage. While that's sauteing, I'm just going to kind of stir it around every few minutes, but I'm going to cut up 3 cups of really finely shredded cabbage. So I'm going to start with just a good piece off of the side, and then give that a pretty fine slice. So little shreds like this, that'll be perfect. And this cooks down so much as well. This definitely looks like it's going to be more than enough. So I'm going to add in my ginger to the pan and then toss in my cabbage and let this saute and cook down for a few minutes. My carrots and onion are looking pretty good and smelling amazing. I'm going to add in a little bit of ginger paste, maybe about 1 or 2 teaspoons. Now I'm going to add in my cabbage. And you can see there is definitely a pretty big pile of cabbage going in here, but give this a few minutes and it's really going to start to cook down. And I'll just kind of keep stirring this every few minutes while I work on my shrimp. I have a pound of pre-cooked shrimp here. It would be ideal if this was uncooked, but this is just what I had in my freezer, so it'll work just fine. I'm going to remove the tails and mince this up really finely. Instead of shrimp, you could use ground beef or ground pork, whatever meat you want. If you were using something like that that takes a little bit longer to cook, I would suggest tossing that in first before you add in your cabbage and kind of cook that with your carrots and onions. But since I'm using shrimp that cooks so fast and this is already cooked, I'm just going to toss this in last. Now that I have those tails off, I'm just going to give this a pretty fine chop. I want to have some fairly small pieces kind of interspersed in my egg roll bowls. Now coming back to my pan on the stove, you can see that cabbage has wilted down so much. I'm going to season this up just a little bit more. I'm going to add in about 1/4 cup of soy sauce. a little bit more black pepper, a drizzle of sesame oil, and lastly, just a teaspoon or two of honey for just a little sweetness. Give this a toss together. And since my shrimp are already cooked, I'm going to add these in now just for the last minute or two. If these had been raw, I would have added them in just a few minutes ago before I finished adding in all those additional seasonings. And I'll give this a toss around to kind of coat everything and flavor up the shrimp and warm it up as well. And this really does look so much like egg roll filling because that's basically what it is. This looks fantastic and it smells amazing. This is gonna make a really good meal prep for several days. You could keep this super low carb and just eat the bowl plain, just as it is, or you can put it over the top of some cauliflower rice. I'm gonna do some regular white rice. I've had this steaming here. I'll show you how I'm gonna put these bowls together. I'm gonna add in just a little bit of white rice at the bottom of my bowl, and then spoon my egg roll mixture over the top. And I think this is gonna be really good. And lastly, I'm just gonna top this with a little bit of green onion for just a little extra garnish over the top and a little bit of extra flavor. Now let's see how this came out. Get a little bit of everything in the bite and give it a try. It really does taste like an egg roll. This came out so good and I'm really happy I finally gave it a try. This was such an easy and pretty healthy meal prep as well. And you can really make this with whatever meat you want. So really easy to kind of change it up just a little bit. I'll definitely be making this one again. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell icon so you can get notified every time I post. As always, you can find the full recipe to this in the description box down below, along with links to all of my social media pages so you can follow along through the week for more cooking content. Hope to see you back here next time.